Patricia stood frozen outside the coffee shop window, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might explode. Inside, a young woman with her exact same eyes checked her phone, completely unaware that the woman who gave birth to her was 30 seconds away from either walking through that door or disappearing forever. Patricia had spent 20 years imagining this moment, 20 years convincing herself it would never happen. And now, as Sophia looked up and their eyes locked through the glass, Patricia realized she had exactly 3 seconds to make a choice that would change both their lives forever. She reached for the door handle. Before we continue with this incredible story, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss these powerful true stories. And comment below, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into Patricia's journey. 20 years earlier, 18-year-old Patricia Miller sat in a cold hospital room, her entire world crashing down around her. She had just given birth to a perfect 6-pound baby girl with tiny fingers that wrapped around her thumb like a promise. Lucy and Robert Miller, Patricia's parents, stood near the door with crossed arms and disappointed faces that had become all too familiar over the past 9 months. Outside in the waiting room, Jennifer and David Torres sat nervously, waiting to take home the baby they'd dreamed of for years. Patricia had exactly 10 minutes. 10 minutes to memorize every detail of her daughter's face. 10 minutes to whisper promises she didn't know if she could keep. 10 minutes before she had to hand over the most precious thing she'd ever created. Marcus Chen, her high school boyfriend and the baby's father, had disappeared the moment she told him about the pregnancy. One day they were making plans for prom. The next day his phone number was disconnected, and his family had moved across the state. Patricia was completely alone, a scared teenager with no job, no money, and parents who made it crystal clear that keeping the baby meant losing everything else. The choice wasn't really a choice at all, but that didn't make it any less devastating. "I promise I'll find you one day," Patricia whispered into her daughter's soft hair, breathing in that sweet newborn smell one last time. "I promise you'll understand why I had to do this." She had named her Sophia, meaning wisdom, hoping her daughter would one day have the wisdom to forgive her. When the nurse gently took Sophia from her arms, something inside Patricia shattered so completely that she wasn't sure she'd ever feel whole again. The years that followed were a blur of barely suppressed grief. Patricia threw herself into college, earning a degree in education, becoming the teacher she'd always dreamed of being. She built a career, made friends, even dated occasionally. But there was always a Sophia-shaped hole in her heart that nothing could fill. Every May 15th, Sophia's birthday, Patricia would light a candle and wonder, was she happy? Did she look like Patricia? Did she ever think about the woman who gave birth to her? Patricia's best friend, Hannah Rodriguez, was the only person who truly understood the depth of Patricia's pain. "You're still punishing yourself," Hannah told her one evening as they sat on Patricia's couch, a glass of wine in hand. "You made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. When are you going to forgive yourself?" But Patricia couldn't. In her bedroom drawer, wrapped in tissue paper, she kept the hospital bracelet with Sophia's tiny footprints, along with the single photograph the hospital had allowed her to take. Some wounds don't heal. They just become part of who you are. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday morning in late September, Patricia's phone buzzed with a Facebook message request from someone named Sophia Torres. Her heart stopped. The profile picture showed a beautiful 20-year-old woman with dark hair, bright eyes, and a smile that looked hauntingly familiar. Patricia stared at her phone screen for a full minute, afraid to open the message, afraid of what it might say, afraid of what it might mean. "Hi, my name is Sophia Torres. I was born on May 15, 2005 and adopted through St. Mary's Hospital. I've been searching for my birth mother for 2 years, and I think you might be her. If this is you, I want you to know I'm not angry. I just want to meet you. I just want to know where I came from. Please, if this is you, write back." Patricia collapsed onto her kitchen floor, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. For 20 years, she had carried the weight of her decision like chains around her heart. For 20 years, she had convinced herself that Sophia would hate her, that she was better off never knowing. But here it was, the message she dreamed of and feared in equal measure. Her daughter wanted to meet her. With shaking fingers, Patricia called Hannah. "She found me," she whispered. "Hannah, my baby found me." Within an hour, Hannah was at her door, holding Patricia while she cried tears of joy and terror. Together, they scrolled through Sophia's Facebook profile. She was a psychology major at university. She loved painting, just like Patricia had at that age. She had Patricia's eyes, Patricia's smile, Patricia's creative spirit. She was perfect, and she wanted to meet. Patricia spent 3 hours writing and rewriting her response, deleting and starting over at least 15 times. Finally, she sent something simple and true. "Sophia, it's really me. I've thought about you every single day for 20 years. I would love to meet you. You have no idea how much this message means to me." What Patricia didn't know was that on the other side of town, Sophia was having her own emotional breakdown. She sat in her apartment with her adoptive mother, Jennifer Torres, who had driven over the moment Sophia called. "What if she doesn't like me?" Sophia asked, her voice small and scared. "What if I'm disappointing to her?" Jennifer took her daughter's hands. "Sweetheart, you could never be disappointing. You're incredible. And I'm sure Patricia has been hoping for this moment just as much as you have." Jennifer and David had always been open with Sophia about her adoption, encouraging her questions, supporting her need to search. They weren't threatened by Patricia. They were grateful to her for the daughter they loved so much. Over the next 2 weeks, Patricia and Sophia exchanged dozens of messages. They shared photos, stories, pieces of their lives. Patricia learned that Sophia had grown up happy, loved, and supported. Sophia learned that Patricia had never stopped loving her, never stopped wondering, never stopped hoping. They discovered they both painted, both loved thunderstorms, both had the same ridiculous laugh that snorted at the end. The similarities were striking and beautiful, and somehow healing. Then came the video call. Patricia set up her laptop in her living room, changed her shirt 4 times, and nearly backed out twice before hitting the call button. When Sophia's face appeared on the screen, Patricia gasped. It was like looking at a younger version of herself, but also someone entirely new and wonderful. "Hi," Sophia said softly, tears already streaming down her face. "Hi, sweetheart," Patricia whispered back, her own tears falling. "You're so beautiful." They talked for 3 hours, crying and laughing in equal measure. Patricia explained everything, her voice breaking as she described how young and scared she'd been, how much she'd wanted to keep Sophia but couldn't, how the guilt had haunted her for 2 decades. Sophia listened, her face full of compassion rather than judgment. "I'm not angry," she said firmly. "I just want to know you. I want you in my life." Before they ended the call, they made plans to meet in person. A coffee shop halfway between their homes. Saturday at 2 o'clock. Patricia barely slept for the next 4 days. Saturday arrived with cruel slowness. Patricia arrived at the coffee shop 20 minutes early, her anxiety so intense she thought she might be sick. She ordered a tea she didn't drink and sat at a corner table where she could see the door. 3 times she almost left. 3 times she talked herself into staying. Then, at exactly 2 o'clock, Sophia walked through the door. Time seemed to stop. They spotted each other across the crowded cafe, and everything else faded away. Sophia walked toward her slowly, hesitantly, hope and fear written all over her face. Patricia stood up, her legs shaking. For a moment, they just stared at each other, taking in every detail up close for the first time in 20 years. "Hi," Sophia said, her voice barely a whisper. Patricia. Sorry." Patricia's heart broke and healed simultaneously. "Hi, baby." They collapsed into each other's arms, both sobbing, holding on like they might disappear if they let go. Other customers watched with tears in their own eyes, witnessing a reunion 20 years in the making. When they finally pulled apart and sat down, their hands remained clasped across the table, unwilling to break physical contact. "You're so beautiful," Patricia said, studying every feature of Sophia's face. "You're everything I dreamed you'd be and so much more." "I have your eyes," Sophia replied, smiling through her tears. "Everyone always told me I had someone's eyes, and I never knew whose. Now I know." They talked for hours, the coffee shop staff politely ignoring closing time. Patricia told stories about the pregnancy, about holding Sophia in the hospital, about the 20 years of birthdays and holidays where she'd felt Sophia's absence like a physical ache. Sophia shared stories about her childhood, her loving adoptive family, her own journey to find Patricia. She showed Patricia her baby book, where Jennifer and David had included a letter about her birth mother, telling Sophia that she came from love, even when circumstances were difficult. "I need you to know something," Patricia said, her voice thick with emotion. "I've spent 20 years apologizing to you in my head. I've spent 20 years thinking I was the worst person in the world for giving you up." Sophia squeezed her hands tighter. "Patricia, you gave me life twice, once when you had me, and once when you chose better for me. You were 18, alone and scared, and you made sure I went to people who could give me everything. That's not something to apologize for. That's something to be proud of." Patricia broke down completely, years of guilt and shame finally beginning to crack under the weight of Sophia's forgiveness. "I thought about you every single day," she sobbed. "Every single day." "I know," Sophia said softly. "Somehow, I always felt it. I always knew someone out there was thinking about me." Patricia reached into her purse and pulled out the small bundle wrapped in tissue paper. With trembling hands, she unwrapped the hospital bracelet with Sophia's tiny footprints. Sophia gasped, touching it gently, tears falling onto the plastic. "You kept this?" "I kept everything," Patricia whispered. "It was all I had of you." As the evening grew dark outside the coffee shop windows, they exchanged phone numbers, made plans for the following week, and took their first mother-daughter photo in 20 years. Patricia couldn't stop staring at it, couldn't believe this was real, that this beautiful young woman actually wanted her in her life. "I want you to meet my parents," Sophia said as they finally prepared to leave. "Jennifer and David. They want to meet you, to thank you." Patricia's eyes widened with fear and hope. "They do? They've always been grateful to you," Sophia explained. "They told me that you gave them the greatest gift they ever received. They want you to know that I was loved every single day." In the parking lot, they hugged again, neither wanting to let go. "Thank you for finding me," Patricia whispered. "Thank you for forgiving me." "There's nothing to forgive," Sophia replied firmly. "Thank you for being brave enough to meet me. Thank you for wanting to know me." "I love you," Patricia said, the words she'd been holding for 20 years finally released. "I loved you then. I loved you all the years between, and I love you now." Sophia smiled through fresh tears. "I love you too, Patricia. Maybe one day I'll call you Mom too, if that's okay." Patricia nodded, unable to speak. They separated slowly, both looking back multiple times as they walked to their cars. Patricia watched Sophia drive away, her hand pressed against her heart, feeling lighter than she had in 2 decades. Over the following months, Patricia and Sophia built a relationship carefully and lovingly. They met for coffee every week, then twice a week, then spontaneous dinners and shopping trips. Patricia met the Torres family in an emotional gathering where everyone cried and everyone hugged, and Jennifer thanked Patricia for the daughter who made their family complete. There was no jealousy, no competition, only gratitude and love expanding to include everyone. They discovered more similarities every day. They had the same terrible sense of direction. They both loved old movies and rainy Sundays. They both cried at commercials and laughed at their own jokes before delivering the punchline. Patricia taught Sophia advanced painting techniques. Sophia helped Patricia navigate social media. They were building something new and precious from the ashes of 20 years of separation. One evening, 6 months after their reunion, Sophia showed up at Patricia's apartment for dinner. It had become routine now, comfortable, easy. As they cooked together, Sophia casually said, "Hey, Mama Patricia, can you pass the salt?" She froze, realizing what she'd said, but Patricia just smiled and handed her the salt, her eyes glistening with happy tears. On Patricia's mantel now sat 2 photographs in matching frames. One showed 18-year-old Patricia holding newborn Sophia in that hospital room, young and scared but full of love. The other showed them from last week, laughing in Patricia's kitchen. flour on their faces from baking cookies, comfortable and happy, and finally together. Patricia often thought about that day outside the coffee shop when she almost ran away. She thought about all the years of guilt and grief, wondering if she'd made the right choice. Now she understood something she couldn't have known back then. Love doesn't end just because circumstances change. Love doesn't disappear just because people are separated. Love persists, patient and eternal, waiting for its moment to bloom again. You were always mine, and I was always yours. Patricia told Sophia one evening as they sat on her couch, Sophia's head on her shoulder. We just took the long way back to each other. Sophia squeezed her hand. The long way was worth it. We're here now. That's what matters. 20 years of separation, 20 years of wondering, 20 years of loving someone from a distance. But now, finally, Patricia held her daughter not just in her arms, but in her life. The guilt had transformed into grace. The loss had transformed into love. The ending she'd feared had become a beginning more beautiful than she'd ever imagined possible. Every adoption story is unique, woven from threads of loss and love, grief and gratitude, endings and new beginnings. Patricia and Sophia's story reminds us that some bonds cannot be broken by time or distance, that forgiveness is possible, that love really does find a way. 3 million adopted people in America search for their birth families. Every single story matters. Every single reunion is a miracle. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories that remind us of the resilience of the human heart. What did you think of Patricia and Sophia's journey? Let us know in the comments below.